I'm Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Well, welcome to Carrie's Connoisseurs for this morning. I've got a special guest in my studio today. I only met her three weeks ago?
Yeah, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, yeah.
Riette Eggink. I was invited to a wine tasting by an old colleague of mine for Montpellier wine estate, which I'm not particularly familiar with. And when I got there, I met Riette. And she and I, within the space of 10 or 15 minutes, found about 200 common points of interest. And we just hit it off, had loads of fun, lots of nice energy and chemistry, and I thought we could do something with Montpellier Estate. Welcome
Absolutely.
to
Thank you so
Carrie's
much, Carrie.
Connoisseurs.
Yeah, I'm honoured to be here this morning with you. Thank you.
So, beautiful morning, unseasonal rain in Johannesburg.
Lovely crisp morning, yeah.
Beautiful morning. I was up at about 4:30 because I have a new rescue dog who is scared of the rain.
Oh, shame. Yeah.
So Wallace keeps me awake all night.
Well, then we haven't discovered this yet, but that we have this also in common. Because I've got 2 Great Danes who wake me up at 5 a.m. each morning. So, yeah.
Anyway, little Wallace, he obviously had some ghastly thing happen to him in his previous life that involved thunderstorms. And the little thing is so terrified. Anyway, enough of the dog. And on to Riette and Montpellier. For those of you who don't know, Montpellier is a very historic site in Tulbach in the Western Cape, and it's owned by a man called Lucas van Tonda, who is the reason why Riette is there. So we are going to get onto Lucas and Montpellier, but before we get there, I want to speak about Riette.
Okay.
Where was Riette born?
I was actually born just outside the Kruger National Park in Nelspruit, for all places. But I grew up in Potchefstroom, where I met Lucas as a child. I think we were like 6 or 7 years old.
Why did you grow up in Potchefstroom? Was your father a farmer?
No, my father was lecturing at the university.
Okay.
Potch, yeah. And so did Lucas's dad. So we, and at some stage we were also neighbors, and we went to school together, to athletics training. He actually taught me to drive when we were teenagers as well. So we come along quite a long time, and then grew up in Potchefstroom, primary school, high school, varsity, and then moved down to Cape Town, got married.
Not to Lucas.
No.
What's it sounding like? Lucas is sort of your person.
No, Lucas is such an important person in my life, a significant person in my life. But it has never been more than like brother and sister. We've got this very, very special relationship. I got married. In fact, at some stage, my boyfriend at varsity got married to Lucas's ex-girlfriend of varsity.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
so the plot thickens and all quite incestuous.
This can become very interesting, but let's not go there. So what happened then is moved down to Cape Town, where I lectured at Stellenbosch University. I have a background in music, studied music, did education also, music education, became a musicologist, piano teacher.
What is a musicologist?
A musicologist is, and to be honest, I only really discovered the true meaning of a musicologist while I was living in the Netherlands. I lived there for 20 years, got married to a Dutch guy.
You never know these days. God, you better not offend anyone.
Yeah, and, you know, to be really honest, I never considered myself very like a performer or a pianist, although I did study music. I went through everything, did my exams in piano, all of that. But it never really came naturally. But what I did have was a very deep interest in the background of music, the structure of music, the componists, you know, how is it all put together, the compositions, to really have an understanding about it. And that actually came to bloom during the time that I was living in Europe. That, I mean, it's
so
just all
steeped in
around
culture,
us.
isn't
It's
it gorgeous?
everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I actually started or decided, you know, I considered myself more a musicologist than a musician, although actually I can play the piano, of course, and I have lots of fun with it. But
And I
I'm
want
not a
your
performer.
clavinova. I want Lucas's clavinova.
Yeah, Carrie was there at his house
I
and saw
spotted it. Lucas is not going to get away with that. I want that clavinova. I'm telling
Well, that's,
you now.
by the way, also a big passion that we always shared, music. You
So
also
he
saw all his
clearly plays
records
lots,
and,
yes.
yeah, and his guitars as well. It's a huge passion for both of us, and that's actually also something that we really try to integrate with Montpellier as well, to organize music concerts. We really want to be associated also with the arts and the fine arts, like
Well, that's what
music
it's all
and
about.
art. And
That's why we love music and wine. And who was it who spoke about wine, women, and song?
no,
He wasn't wrong. It was a Greek. It was some god, I think.
well,
He must
was
have been a
quite
god.
right.
I'd pray to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would pray to somebody who wanted wine, women,
Because
and
wine
song.
is actually a form of art as well.
Of
I mean,
course
to a
it
certain
is.
extent,
Yeah.
it's chemistry, you know, basic science. But from a certain point, it becomes
Well,
art.
it's chemistry. It's sort of art chemistry in the cellar, isn't it?
Yeah.
The chemistry starts in the vineyards, and then you just pick it and move it into the cellar, and you can make the most wonderful wine art.
Yeah, and
in
it's
the cellar.
fascinating to be part of that and to observe that as well. For example, I mean, like a winemaker, to see after, let's say, the Cabernet has been on wooden barrels for 12 months, maybe 18 months, and he will go with the wine thief, extract the wine, taste it, to determine when is the right time to get bottled.
I
You know?
know.
And I would follow him and do it with him, and he would taste, I know, the time is not right yet. And
Well,
he
it's
would
like
do it
baking
like
a
for a
cake.
week or two. Yeah, and then just one day he said, no, the time is right.
Today's
We're going to
the day.
bottle. Yes. I mean, that's fascinating.
So you got married. You went to university in Potchefstroom.
Yeah.
What did your father lecture, by the way?
Sociology.
Okay.
Yes, and later on he moved to the Faculty of Economics, more into labor relations. Yeah.
That was a big mistake. Anyway, that's him. You finished at university and you went down to Cape Town. You met a Dutchman in Cape Town?
No, also actually in Potchefstroom.
Oh, did you?
He was born in Holland, but grew up in South Africa since he was 12 years old. Yeah.
Met your husband, married him, and then why did you decide? He want to go back to his homeland or what?
He was one of 5 children, siblings, who always said that he would like to go back. And the opportunity came when he was doing his MBA at Stellenbosch University to go as an exchange program to the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. And we said, yeah, okay, let's do this for 6 months. Our son was just turned about 2 years old. The time was right to do this. And after he finished his studies, the job opportunities and job offers came in, and we said, okay, let's go for a year or 2, maybe 3.
Was
live
he
in Holland.
involved in music as well?
No, not really. But he's got, he's quite passionate about it as well.
So hop, skip and jump. We go to Rotterdam. We stay there for 20 years. And
first 6 months, and then a couple of years we became 20 years, yeah.
We don't have to go through all the ghastly things that happened that brought you home, because I know that was an unhappy time for you, really. But you came home at the behest of one Lucas van Tonda, because you were getting divorced, I think.
Yeah, I was after a marriage of 13.
Yeah, yes.
But let's also
But
not
you
go
know
there.
what? You overcome these things. It feels like it's awful at the time, and then one day you wake up and you think, maybe that happened for a reason, because now look what you've got in your life.
Yeah. Now, I must admit and give Lucas also credit for that, although I still believe it goes 2 ways.
Yes.
But we sort of lost sight of each other for about 20 years while I was living there. And then he came to visit me in Holland during my divorce, and he knew about the fact that I was at a crossroad in my life, whether I want to stay in Holland or come back to South Africa. And through circumstances, which was actually quite sad, something that happened on his farm, which is, by the way, also a wedding venue, a very popular wedding venue. We had in 2019 about 50 weddings almost every single weekend, and
they
we
were
are
cancelled.
back at that stage again.
Fantastic.
So that's absolutely amazing. And he urgently needed someone to come and help out with the weddings. And I said, okay, let me do this for a couple of months. Rented my house in Holland for 6 months, came to South Africa and did that. But oh my word, I think I've told you, I hated every little bit of the weddings. I mean, in hindsight, if you think about it, I was like in the middle of a divorce. And I was so cynical, you know.
Listen, at the best of times, I don't do weddings. I mean, everybody else got married in romantic churches and things. I got married in a courthouse.
Pardon, sorry.
I should have known then, shouldn't I?
Yeah, but on the other hand, if I look back, it was also quite fun. But the advantage of that experience was that I always had an interest in wine, and while we were living in Europe, visiting all the wine regions, even in California, and so that was already a passion of mine. But then I got much more interested in winemaking, shadowed the winemaker, harvested myself, and got involved in all the processes. And I was very honest also with Lucas about the wedding thing, that wasn't really my thing. Oh my word. Apart from the fact that I was cynical about it, I've never experienced it's really hard work. I mean,
something happens to women, I think, when they're asked to marry someone. Something seems to go ping in the head and they go a bit daft.
You know, once these brides pull out like a maatband, like a measure tape.
Yes.
And start measuring how far the guests should sit apart from each other, you know,
worse,
that kind of thing.
Still, they get a wedding planner. Blimey.
Yeah, some of them get like 2 or 3.
And they spend 3 million rand.
But let's not be judgmental about it. I've also learned, you know, each for its own.
It's nice
I just want to mention for brides to be, you know what was the how can I put it, the wedding that I enjoyed the most was from a Belgian couple who actually by accident arrived on our farm one December afternoon, and they were tasting our wine, sitting next to the swimming pool under the oak tree, sipping on a Chenin Blanc. And they were actually they planned to actually just visit for the afternoon, and late afternoon they
got married.
Not yet. Ask whether we do have accommodation. They can stay over, which we do have. We can accommodate almost 100 people sleeping on the farm. We said, yeah, sure, you know, we can accommodate. They stayed for 5 days. They just couldn't leave. And during those 5 days also decided this is where they want to get married in the next year, October it was. And that was the best wedding ever. They were so chilled, so relaxed. The morning, a day or two before the wedding, I went with the bride-to-be through a checklist. Have you thought about flowers? What are we going to do about that? It was a garden wedding. They invited all their family and friends from Belgium, also smallish, about 60 people. No, not really, but you know what? I thought we'll just go into the veld and pick some wildflowers.
Well, it's so pretty there that it actually is doable like that.
Well,
isn't it?
It's not only that. Montpellier is such a magical, beautiful place. The most beautiful gardens. I always told brides also, you don't need to spend lots of money on decorations because the whole environment is already so lovely and beautiful. You know, make use of that. But anyway,
so you told Lucas you were done with the wedding. You wanted to do something a bit more substantial.
Yeah.
And get involved in the wine and what have you, which you did. But you've been doing it from Johannesburg, haven't you?
Well, Maya, just before we change that subject, use the opportunity. I don't know if I can advertise here.
But
I just want to use the opportunity to actually say that, you know what it also is? I think if I was like maybe 20 years younger, it can be a very nice job for someone who's made for it and young. And by the way, we have an opportunity now. We are looking for a wedding coordinator on the farm in Tulbach.
So come to Carrie's Connoisseurs and you can get a job as a wedding coordinator.
I can imagine that there are people made to do this. I was more made to. I discovered my passion is more not really the marketing or the selling of wine, because I also told Lucas I'm not someone who can sell anything. But you know, it sells itself. I don't have to do it. It's such a wonderful product. And so what happened, at some stage he needed someone to be his ambassador for his wines in Gauteng, where he also had a guest house here. And I came to live in Johannesburg, managed his guest house also for him, and got involved in the marketing of the wine.
And when was that?
That was in around about October 2018. Yeah.
And the rest is sort of history. So I
And
don't
I
know
just
much
love my job,
I
really.
know you do,
Yeah.
but I've tasted a couple of your wines. I haven't tasted all of those that you gave me because we've got a pact that you and I are going to taste them together. But for those of you who don't know Montpellier, because I didn't know Montpellier particularly well either, it's in Tulbach, which is such a beautiful part of the Cape that many people skip when they go to Cape Town. They go sort of as far as Stellenbosch and then, or maybe Franschhoek,
Yeah.
and then that's done. But Paarl and Tulbach are two of my favorite places.
Absolutely.
It's very hot there.
Yeah.
It does get very, very hot there.
Well,
So wine farming is a little bit sort of hectic. But Montpellier is one of the oldest properties in the Cape. It's got a wonderful sort of 300 and something year old heritage.
Yeah, it was established in 1714 by two brothers, the Ron brothers, from Montpellier in France. And it actually stayed in the Theron family through the...
Many years,
I think almost... Actually, Lucas bought it from Theron.
Yes. And in fact, the Veteran was a bit of a trailblazer in the wine industry from a viticultural and a winemaking perspective. I think he was one of the first people who recognized that controlled temperatures during the fermentation process encouraged much more stability in the wine and produced much better wines. He also, and to that end, I think he was the first person to put cold water tubing and piping around tanks and things to make sure that they were controlled temperatures.
Yeah, and to prevent a premature fermenting.
So he had some quite forward-thinking viticultural practices. He was also very careful. I think he had that French attention to detail in the back of his head. Yeah. And I was going to ask you if that Theron family had anything to do with winemaking in France, because so much of what he implemented was what they were already doing in Bordeaux at the time, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I strongly believe that was the case. And we actually, talking of which, we really try to also, our wine making is very similar to the tradition of the French way of making wines. And I can actually use one or two examples, if you don't mind.
Of course.
For example, you mentioned the climate or the temperatures in Tulbach earlier. It's, and believe me, I've harvested in February myself.
40-something degrees
Yeah, it
sometimes.
can go up to 40 degrees.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we, about a year or 2-3 ago, started harvesting our grapes for the MCCs at midnight.
Yes.
Because it's just for the quality of the Method Cap Classique that you want to make, just better to keep it cool as possible from the start to the, once it got into the barrels. So that's one of the reasons. But on the other hand, our Syrah, for example, is our flagship wine, while our winemaker always tells me that's actually the easiest wine for him to make. And the reason for that is...
It loves the heat.
Well, it's exactly in the perfect environment. There's a terroir, the climate is very similar to the Rhône Valley where it originally comes from, which means
it's got
hot
its feet in
summer
some
days.
nice gravelly soil.
Well, it's a rocky layer on
soil.
top and the thick layer of clay underneath. Obviously. And then also in terms of the climate, it means hot summer days but cool nights. And because of our location, geographical location, closer to the Karoo actually than to Cape Town, which means semi-desert climate, cool nights, hot summer days, and that's exactly what the Shiraz likes. And also another thing that we feel principally very strong about is to keep our red wines for a minimum of 3 to 5 years back in our cellar before we release them. Our Syrah that we are selling now, for example, is a 2015.
2015 was a cracker of a vintage in South Africa. We had a brilliant vintage.
Oh, it's such a lovely,
and
smooth wine.
I haven't tasted it yet, but I will do. We'll taste it together.
Yeah.
Riette, so you became the brand ambassador in 2018.
Yeah.
You've been involved in winemaking and you've got yourself involved in the process of the whole farm. It's like a big drug. Once you've had one snort of winemaking, you want to do that for the rest of your life. Ask me. So you got caught by the wine bug drug.
Yeah.
You are
absolutely.
completely addicted, and I think you're almost on your way back to the Cape, aren't you?
Well, you know, that's another thing. Although I'm based in Johannesburg at this stage, I strongly believe that it's very important as an ambassador that you are hands-on involved at the farm itself. I never understand how if you go to wine festivals, you will, how one can sell the wine if you haven't experienced the farm itself.
I know.
And that is addictive. I just love going to the farm. It's like always when I enter our lovely gates with the eucalyptus trees, I have to stop, take a picture, just take a deep breath.
And smell.
And even, get a bit emotional arriving home.
No.
It is very important to me to visit the farm quite often and to feel part of the team involved at the farm, from the people harvesting the grapes,
Yes.
to the gardener, to the winemaker himself. We actually recently started covering all our wines in wax as well instead of the foils.
Okay.
And there's literally this guy sitting outside the cellar in the summer in the shade of a tree, dipping the bottles of wine in this wax, and to know him by name and arrive there and see everybody happy. It's very important. Yeah.
Something incredibly.
So you're right.
calming.
It is addictive. But your initial question was that I am maybe moving back. Not. I always say, can I just interrupt myself? When people ask, when people ask me, where do I live? Even yesterday, I was at the bank and I had to give my proof of address. And they were asking what's my address. And I was about to say, okay, Parkmore, Johannesburg. And I thought, no. Maybe my car is registered in Tulbach. Maybe that should be my official address. But, there was time that I still had my house in Holland also. And
So
I would
you're a bit of a nomad.
But I recently bought a place of my own in the Eastern Cape, just between Jeffreys Bay and St. Francis. So that's another address that I've got in the meantime. But my answer actually to that question is neither here nor there. You know the books from Bill Bryson?
Yep.
One of the titles of one of his books is neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. So that's how I love the freedom of that. So I'm next week, Tuesday, leaving again for the Eastern Cape for stoop tasting in New Bethesda. Then I'll go to Montpellier, to Tulbach, to my place in the Eastern Cape,
And
back
what
to
do
Johannesburg.
you do? You see, I could do that because I'm a bit of a free spirit as well.
Yeah.
But I've got these two Scotty dogs. What do you do with your Great Danes?
Yeah, that's, I got myself involved in literally and figuratively two big problems.
I know. I've got two little ones.
Or
Two little
dilemmas.
square ones. Yeah. Oi.
I would have loved to take them with me everywhere I go. But luckily, their home is at this stage still here in Johannesburg. I've got someone who really looks so well after them when I'm not here. His name's Elvis. And
Elvis?
Elvis, it's
Has he got blue suede shoes?
Yeah. Yeah, he's our gardener / handyman / all of that, my right hand. And I know they are well taken care of and that's on. But, they start...
But who cuddles them on the bed at night?
Yeah,
Does Elvis do
that's
that?
a thing, and that's why they go into this
see.
depression when I start packing. They will start, the ears will hang and the eyes. And
So
everything
you're a
will
better
just droop.
person than me because I can't see the disappointment in my dog's face.
No, it's horrible. I
can't.
know. I hate that. And
I know.
by the time
You're going to go home and slit your jugular after speaking to me.
But we are considering, because they are actually, that's another thing, the thing that Lucas and I share is we have shared, what shall we say, ownership of the two Great Danes.
Custody.
Custody. So, officially, and we are considering to move them down to the wine farm.
Yeah, take them
which
to the
I
farm.
think will be lovely for them, this space. And there will be this feature, these two Great Danes.
You know who's got beautiful Great Danes in the wine industry is Olive Hamilton Russell. She got about 4, I think.
Yeah.
Big, beautiful ones.
Yeah.
So, back to get you and me back on track. One of the things that captivated my heart and mind when I first spoke to you, because I also love music, is the fact that you put together an initiative that is music and wine on the farm. And from what I can gather, you and a friend co-arranged some Brahms or Bach. Who was it? Bach.
Yeah.
Suites, where they go from little space to little space on the farm. The cellar, the vineyard, the tasting room, the barrel fermenting cellar, the whatever. And they play a different suite at each little location, and pair that with one of the wines from the farm. I think that's gorgeous. I absolutely love that idea. Tell us more about that.
I can get lyrical about this. Forgive me if I...
It's such a lovely thing.
Because I would actually also like to share with you and our people listening how the idea, where it came from. Because it's so unique and so special. To begin with, as I said earlier, I'm very passionate about music and how it gets put together. And I go through these phases. You know, I go through a Bach phase. At this moment, I'm going through a Mahler phase. On my way here in my car, I was like,
Gustav, he's a bit bossy, Gustav.
Yeah, it was interesting, but let's talk about Bach now. That's a very interesting topic as well. Maybe I can do a Mahler at Montpellier also
I think we should do Weber. He's got a cello concerto that'll you'll die for.
Yeah,
do cello. But I said then we need Yo-Yo Ma there.
Okay, let's go back to Bach and Yo-Yo Ma, because that's also part of the story. How it all started was while I was still in Europe. My son is also a cellist. He studied at the conservatory in The Hague. And so we were both very passionate about that. And I did a lot of reading about the Bach cello suites. It was actually rediscovered by, I consider him one of the best cellists ever, a Spanish cellist, Pablo Casals.
Yeah, he found the old manuscript somewhere.
Well, when he was 18 years old, he got accepted at the conservatory in Barcelona, and he and his dad was walking through Barcelona with a new cello that his dad just bought him. And they discovered in a small bookshop, rediscovered the sheet music of the Bach cello suites. And he, from the first moment he saw it, he was hooked and fascinated by that, and decided he's going to, because Bach originally composed the cello suites as study pieces. It wasn't really composed as to be performed. But Pablo Casals at some stage also later in his life had to flee.
Flee.
Yeah, flee is the right word.
Barcelona.
Well, Spain. For the Franco regime, because he was opposed to that, and he was very expressive about it as well. So he actually had to get out of Spain, and he went to live in a little mountain village just across the border in the Pyrenees Mountains in France. This little village is called Prades, and they still organize every year in August a Pablo Casals festival in this village.
Let's go.
Well, I did go there with my son. Yeah, with my son. We went there long ago. I think it was in 2009. And they organized all these different concerts there. But what was special also about visiting Prades was there's a monastery just outside the village, surrounded by vineyards, and Pablo Casals used to walk with his cello on his back early morning and go and study. He went to study in this monastery, and that's also where he first recorded the 6 cello suites of Bach. So let's park that concept for a moment, or that idea. And then something else that my son and I also used to visit every second year is there's a cello biennale organized in Amsterdam at the Muziekgebouw aan het IJ for 10 days, where everything is about the cello.
I love it.
It's 24/7, day and night, performances.
Beautiful.
I get all the best cellists from the world to perform, and very experimental and interesting things. And even violin makers who come in the foyer of the Muziekgebouw, where they demonstrate how a cello has been made and the bows and all of that. But a fixed part of this cello biennale is for 6 of the 10 mornings, they've got a Bach and breakfast, where each morning a different Bach suite is performed each morning by different cellists. And as I say, they came from all over the world. And it's just more or less 30 minutes.
It's definitely something to get out of bed
it's amazing.
for, hey?
So when the first time I visited Montpellier and I walked into our iconic little chapel, also surrounded by vineyards, which was built by Lucas on the highest point of the farm. It's a charming little chapel. I just, all these memories from Prades, Pablo Casal's, the Cello Biennale, the Bach and Breakfast, and I thought, we must do something here. This is the idea was born there. And I started doing some research on cellists because, really, believe me, there are not many cellists who are capable of doing this on one day.
No, never.
To perform all 6 cellos. It has actually also become this ultimate thing that every cellist in the world
has to try and do.
Has to try to accomplish.
The Bach marathon.
And anyway, so Pablo, you mentioned Yo-Yo Ma. He was also, obviously also, and he played the prelude like at the World Trade Convention.
I could happily have died right there and then and gone to heaven.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I started doing some research, and I discovered Peter Martens. I still consider him the best, one of the best, if not the best, cellist in South Africa. Okay. He has actually also recorded the Bach cello suites on a CD, lecturing at Stellenbosch University. And yes, indeed, we have become friends in the meantime. We are, and I went to see him at Stellenbosch University, and we started talking about the concept. We organized the first one in 2017. It was a huge success. Only in the chapel, all 6 cello suites, and we decided we are going to do this every second year. But each time just with a little twist to it. And the possibilities are endless. So the second time we paired it indeed with wine. And then the third time we took it a step further to, as you mentioned, to do it on different locations on the farm and pair a wine that goes with the atmosphere of the music and the setting. One of them was even in a tree house on the farm where Peter Martens, and he's such a sporter, this guy, with his cello on his back, climbed
the tree house.
Yeah, climbed the tree
Why
house.
don't you marry Peter Martin?
No, he's happily married with a lovely wife who's a violinist, if I pronounce it correctly.
But there is polygamy.
No, but listen, everything in life is not about getting married and finding a husband or whatever. Really, please. I'm so
You've just spent the last 10 minutes telling us I hate women.
No,
don't marry Peter Martin.
I hope Peter isn't listening to this. But so the two of us together sat down with the winemaker also and tasting the wines. And because each suite has got a different character. The first one, for example, is quite bubbly. And so we chose one of our MCCs for people to drink while they're listening to this.
I can't imagine Bach being bubbly.
No, well,
He's
relatively.
never really been bubbly.
What I'm saying, no, it is lively.
I want to do it, but I want to choose the composer. It's not going to be Bach.
No. Well, you know, okay, I'm very curious to know who that will be. Because if I can say, just mention that the year after the first Bach thing, we did, because Louis Heinemann, the director of the Cape Philharmonic Orchestra, was there at the Bach event, and he said, and we started talking, he would love to bring the orchestra to Montpellier as well.
I'm sure.
Which we did the next year.
Oh, wow.
In November 2018, and we did a full-on Mozart repertoire. But it was also because, you know, we just felt Mozart, Montpellier, MCC. We chose a weekend that it was full moon as well. It was idyllic. It was absolutely
I want
amazing.
to know, Riette, I have worked in this wine industry, but not just worked, sleeves up, hands in, 14-hour days, 35 years I've worked in this wine industry. How come I didn't know about this music and wine at Montpellier? I'm feeling like really left out. It sounds like the most gorgeous weekend. Are we doing one this year?
Yes, we are doing another Bach because it's the second year now. We did our last one in 2021.
Okay.
So just after Stoop tasting that I've got next week in New Bethesda, I will start focusing on that. But the date will be the 24th of September. It's a long weekend. And Peter and I will go and sit together and work out the whole concept because, we've even got this idea. There's a little lake on the farm that we want to put a float in the middle of the dam, not the lake, a dam.
Yeah.
And we will row him with a little boat over to the middle of the dam. And he's going to play one
call
of the
them lakes. It's much more romantic. The Africans call him dam.
Yeah. So we are started working on the concept. People can then also, what we are going to do this time is also to prepare little canapes, to taste while they are listening to the sweeter, and in the afternoon or the evening after it on the 24th, have a pizza evening in our glass house on the farm, and people are welcome then to stay over also and have a nice breakfast the next morning.
We're going to have to advertise this thing. How many people can you have at a thing like that?
Well, our only limitation is the chapel, because we will do one of them and we can accommodate 100 people in the chapel. But we can make a plan.
We can get these children of mine who do music and sound and this and that, and they can put speakers in trees and things.
Yeah,
people can sit on the grass outside the chapel.
There's one thing I've learned in life: there are actually no limitations.
You can do whatever you like,
it's
and especially
possible.
if it's just generating happiness and positivity and gorgeousness, you can
especially
definitely
in
do.
this time.
Definitely do whatever you like.
So we are very, very excited about it. The 24th of September, save the date in the meantime.
I'll definitely be
it's going to be something
really special. It's just
really
about
special.
My birthday then. I'll give myself a birthday present.
Yeah, and bring some friends along. Make
I will
a
bring
party
some
of it.
friends.
Well, I'm also turning 60 this year. Maybe we should do like a birthday celebration.
Thing. Okay.
Anyway,
tell me, what are your and Lucas's plans for Montpellier going forward? Have you got any big, brave new horizons that you're looking to? Or what do you do? Just more of the same?
Well, you have to know Lucas to know nothing will ever stay the same.
Nothing stays the same with him.
And that's one of the things that I really, really admire at him. And, at the stage when he bought the farm about 22, 23 years ago, it was so neglected, in such a neglected stage. Not only the vineyards, but also the manor house, the wine cellar. And he has built it up to what it is today. I always say he's got to be in his bonnet. You always have to have a project. He's got more projects than life left.
That's good.
So they will continuously be. I know they are now working because he has become a father 2.5 years ago for the first time.
Oh, gosh.
Of a little baby boy.
Has he not learned what makes women pregnant yet?
I think if you don't want to get pregnant, stay away from Montpellier, because there's something either in the wine or the water. Because not only did he and his lovely wife Elke became parents of a little baby boy 2.5 years ago, and then in February this year of a baby girl. And our winemaker became father a year ago of a baby girl, and his wife is expecting another child now soon. So there is definitely something there. I think we should stay away. What do you think?
I have my own thoughts on breeding programs. I'm not big on breeding.
But no, it's wonderful. But back to the, it may be part of the reason why. I know they are working on something to actually have an entertainment area for families with small children as well, like fountains and slides and like a activity thing going on the farm. And he has built recently a wine library, like a tasting room, where
you can go and sit and read and drink.
And not only that, at the library we have one row of each of the wines vineyards planted with the name of it on as like a sample of what it looks like. And so there are always new projects and new things going on there. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, we're going to keep everybody up to date. We are going to keep our eyes firmly on you and Montpellier and the music and the wine and everything that goes with it. If you haven't visited Montpellier yet, I haven't. I can't believe I haven't visited Montpellier.
Yeah, please, at this, this is an open invitation. Please, you're so welcome. Please come. And knowing Lucas and his generosity, he will He will like put you in.
I'll sleep under the stars. I'm happy. I love the stars.
Yeah.
I am definitely going to come and
Please
visit
do that.
you.
May I just mention one last thing, which
Yes.
is very interesting. Talking of, we've talked about the music part, but there are two other things that I also just want to mention that I'm quite curious and excited about. I mentioned earlier stoop tasting in New Bethesda and Graaf Reinet next week. The Quote Guild of South Africa, the lady's name is Antoinette, the president of the Quote Guild, approached me at some time because during the stoop tasting we're doing a lot of side events. We're doing MCC masterclasses, food and wine pairings. And she said, we would love to do, or will it be possible to do a quote and wine pairing? You can go very far with these pairings. I even read an article of Star Wars and wine pairing, to pair one.
Wine goes with everything. But wine is life.
What I want to say is, so we are going to do it next week, quote and wine pairing. What we did is...
So are they going to make a quilt?
Well, they did already. So
Okay.
what we did, I chose 6 wines, and they identified 6 quote artists, and I've sent samples of theirs. Each got 1 wine, and based on the tasting notes, the look of and feel of the label, they each had to make a quote of 1 meter by 1 meter.
A little quote, okay.
1 by 1 meter. But these quotes, after the stoop tasting event, will be exhibited.
You must
at
frame
Montpellier.
them. You must
we
frame
are
them.
going to put it at Montpellier in
Yeah.
the wine cellar in the manor house where people can actually go and have a look at it, and it will be for sale as well for a year.
So that's, I'm sure, the sort of entry into the world of art and wine, which we spoke about right at the beginning of the interview, because art and wine is another thing too.
Yes, and the last example I want to mention, because that it's also one of my most passionate projects, is I've was fortunate to meet one of the most humble persons I've ever met. It's an artist, a sculptress, living in Alexandria in the Eastern Cape between Port Elizabeth and Kenton-on-Sea. Her name is Maureen Quinn, and she's got her studio and a sculpture garden in Alexandria, of all places. You will drive through Alexandria and
Never even know it's
and
there.
this woman, this lady, is turning 90 next year.
Oh, wow.
And she has exhibited from New York to London. There's some of her pieces at Munich University in Germany.
Oh, really?
And
What medium does she use? What?
mainly bronze. And that's what I want to say. So I won't go into details how we met. I met one daughter, and from one thing came the other. And we started collaborating about 2 years ago, organizing lunches at her sculpture garden, where she does a talk or a demonstration of her sculptures, and I do a masterclass on wine and the tasting. We did a chocolate and wine pairing, a brunch, of the MCC. And the last one we did in March now was a demonstration of the bronze pouring. And then obviously we also poured some MCCs. So it was all about pouring, wine and bronze. But anyway, the thing is this place is so amazing. So we are, going forward, plan to do lots of very interesting things together. She's turning 90 next year. We are considering to do, exhibition of her sculptures at Montpellier also for celebration of her 90th birthday next year.
That's fantastic. Well, we'll hear more about that because I'm going to keep everybody up to date as to what's happening at Montpellier. You can hear it's just a fountain of creativity and a myriad of things coming out of that gorgeous space. So I'll keep everybody up to date on that.
Thank you so much.
While we're saying 90-year-olds and what have you, yesterday was the 18th of May, and it would have been my mother's birthday if she was alive. But it was also, in fact, I think May de Lancasan is on the 17th of May. But a happy birthday to May de Lancasan, Lady May Elaine de Lancasan. Do you know her?
No.
She turned 98 yesterday.
Who is she?
She is the most remarkable woman in the wine industry.
Oh, now I'm ashamed. I should know
remarkable.
this.
She's just remarkable.
How do I
I have
not
the
know?
privilege of meeting her quite a long time ago, and she was one of the owners of Chateau Pichon in Bordeaux. And long story short, she sold that and she came to South Africa at the age of about 84, I think.
Yes.
And she bought a property which is now Glen Elly. That belongs to May.
Oh.
And she's turned it into the most
something as well.
fantastic wine farm.
Yeah.
And I'm told, when I wished her happy birthday, I was told that she has absolutely no plans for retirement at the age of 98.
Isn't that just
So
wonderful?
cheers. I haven't got a glass of
Cheers.
wine,
Yeah,
but we've
coffee.
got coffee.
We'll
Cheers to
on
May de
coffee.
Lancaster and Maureen Quinn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fabulous
It's
women
all about
who-
passion
yeah.
and being interested and interesting. Can I just share this little thing about Maureen Quinn?
You got 5 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not
No, this
even.
will be 1 minute. But talking about inspirational, not only women, people, because that's how, what
what it
life is
is.
about and how you can grow old, like happily and in a positive way. This woman, one of her first lectures that I attended, she opened by saying, you know what, I've got 2 passions in life. This small, little, humble, almost 90-year-old lady. And as you would expect, one of them is my sculpture. And she paused a moment and she got this twinkle in her eye and she said, and the second one, you know what, I'm not going to share this one with you.
How cute is that?
And I thought, I want to grow old like that.
No, I want to be May de Lancaster as well. I want to be 98.
She sounds very, very
98,
inspirational.
not out.
I would
Yeah,
love to.
that's-
I hope I can meet her.
She's truly inspirational.
Thank you.
As are you.
But so are you. Thank you. That's
Thank you
lovely.
very much for joining me.
Thank you for the
I
invitation.
know everybody is going to explore and love Montpellier and everything that comes out of it.
Thank you very much.
So-
I hope I haven't overstayed my welcome.
You've never. We could go on and on and on and on.
I can
but
go on and on about
People
this. so,
tell
yeah.
me that listeners get bored after a certain time. And every now and again, Brendan says to me, I'm going to cut you off because you're talking rubbish. You're rambling.
Oh, he has cut me off. Why? I'm just sitting here talking to myself.
But thank you very, very much. It was such fun.
Thank you so much.
We'll see
Thanks,
you some
Gary.
more.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah,
Cheers.
thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.